music. Did the noticeable age gap make her feel like a kid? And did this force her into adulthood before she was ready? Join us as we find out. Melissa Gilbert's confessions about Dean Butler, the kiss that changed everything. Under the prairie dresses and pigtails of Little House on the Prairie was an awkward truth that stayed hidden for years. In 1980, while families across America tuned in, 15 years old, Melissa Gilbert stood frozen on set. Experiences and emotional experiences attached to all of these people. Dreading a moment that was supposed to feel special, but instead felt overwhelming. She was just a teenager. But the script called for her to share a romantic moment with Dean Butler, a 23-year-old actor playing Almanzo Wilder. The age gap might not have seemed like a big deal to TV executives at the time, but looking back, it raises some deep questions. She was still a kid wearing the childhood shoes while he was an adult with his own car and apartment. The difference between them was more than just years. It was an entire stage of life. While filming the episode Sweet 16 on screen, her character was stepping into young adulthood. But in real life, she was still far from ready for something like this. The set grew tense. Michael Landon, both her TV father and real-life mentor, kept a close eye on everything. 100 crew members stood in silence, watching it all unfold. Nearby, Gilbert's mother hovered, making sure her daughter wasn't completely on her own, in one of the most uncomfortable moments of her career. When the cameras started rolling, Gilbert did what she had to do. She slipped into acting mode. She closed her eyes, barely puckered her lips, and let him take the lead. It was clear she felt detached from that moment. Dean Butler, now in his 60s, has had plenty of time to look back on that day. He admitted that if Landon hadn't carefully managed the scene, age and size difference could have made things even more uncomfortable. Despite all the awkwardness, they managed to make it work. On screen, it looked like a sweet and innocent romance, and audiences loved it. Never knowing how uneasy things were behind the scenes, Gilbert eventually grew into the role, becoming more at ease with the storyline as the series continued. But that first kiss is a clear example of how much things have changed in the entertainment industry. Looking back, Butler does not doubt that a scene like that would never happen today, and rightfully so. The show's setting may have been simple and small, but the weight on its young star was anything but. That first kiss was overwhelming for young Melissa. But what happened next led to one of TV's most unexpected real-life moments. What could make a veteran director like Michael Landon suddenly stop everything? A mother's heart breaks on camera. The set of Little House on the Prairie fell completely silent that autumn day. The lights were in place, the cameras were rolling, and Melissa Gilbert stood nervously bracing for her first on-screen kiss with Dean Butler. But what happened next briefly shattered the illusion of television magic. Watching from the sidelines, Barbara Abels had been by her daughter's side through every challenge of Hollywood, shielding her from its pressures and celebrating her success. But as Butler, a grown man, leaned in toward her teenage daughter, something inside her broke. Her sobs, raw and unfiltered, echoed through the set. These weren't quiet tears of nostalgia, but the unmistakable cries of a mother struggling to watch her child be pushed into something beyond her years. Michael Landon, known for his strict attention to detail, immediately stepped in and stopped filming. He could see this was more than just another scene. It was a moment that cut deep. Looking back, Butler later acknowledged that her reaction wasn't just discomfort. It was a mother's instinct to protect her daughter, even from something that on the surface seemed like just another part of the job. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Butler was a full-grown man, independent, experienced, with stubble on his face, and a worldliness that came with adulthood. Gilbert, on the other hand, was still very much a teenager living under her mother's rules, unfamiliar with dating, and with only storybook ideas of romance. The crew shifted uneasily, unsure how to react as the carefully crafted illusion of television clashed with a mother's very real emotions. Some exchanged awkward glances, while others looked away, giving the moment whatever privacy they could. Landon, a father himself, approached Barbara with a rare mix of firmness and compassion. He understood her feelings, but reminded her that the scene had to be finished. Caught between her mother's distress and the expectations of her job, Gilbert held herself together. She had spent most of her life under the bright lights of Hollywood, and somehow, at just 15, she found the strength to push through. In that moment, she stood at a crossroads, no longer a child, yet not quite ready for the adult world being thrust upon her. When the cameras rolled again, the atmosphere had changed. The kiss, meant to be a simple milestone in her character's journey, now carried an unspoken weight. It was a reminder of just how thin the line was between acting and reality. Sensing this, Butler approached the scene with extra care, fully aware of the trust being placed in him. From Hollywood lights to Catskill mornings. Mornings in the Catskill Mountains feel nothing like the ones on a Hollywood set. There's no script, no stage lights, just the sound of roosters crowing and the earth settling beneath fingernails that once had to stay perfectly clean for TV close-ups. For Melissa Gilbert, this shift from playing a prairie girl on screen to living a quiet rural life feels like coming full circle in a way no one could have predicted. She now calls this place her little house in the Catskills, a nod to the role that made her famous. But instead of props and set designers, she has real chickens to care for, including a particularly confident rooster who struts around like he owns the place. Her hands, once carefully looked after on set, now tell a different story marked with blisters and dirt from farm work. She holds them up with a mix of pride and humor, proof of a life that's far removed from the perfectly polished world of television. Her home, tucked away in Sullivan County, is surrounded by trees that change with the seasons, a big difference from the controlled sets where she spent much of her childhood. Even the simplest victories like keeping her plants alive bring her genuine joy. Now, at 60, Gilbert carries pieces of every chapter she's lived. She was the child star who grew up in front of millions, the young woman navigating Hollywood, the leader who once ran the Screen Actors Guild, even a congressional candidate. But here, away from the cameras, she's simply a woman who has found peace in fresh air, homegrown vegetables, and the quiet rhythm of country life. Her journey reflects something deeper, an urge many people share. Back in the 1970s, Little House on the Prairie gave audiences a comforting escape during tough times in America. This is the 50th anniversary of Little House on the Prairie. 50 years. I was 9 when it started. I'm 59, and I'll be 60 in May, so yeah. Now, instead of just playing a character who embraced simple living, Gilbert is doing it. The same hands that once pretended to churn butter on set now preserve real garden harvests for winter. Her husband, Timothy Busfield, has been by her side since 2013, bringing his own experience from a life in television. Together, they've built a life far from Hollywood's constant spotlight, where growing crops and raising animals matter more than industry events or red carpets. Mornings start with actual farm chores instead of time in a makeup chair. Nights are spent talking by the fire instead of attending glitzy gatherings. And instead of production schedules dictating their days, the changing seasons now set the pace. The irony is hard to miss. The girl who once played a pioneer now lives like one, but Gilbert doesn't romanticize it. Her farm isn't some tribute to her TV past. It's a real working homestead where she's learning how to live off the land in her own way. She jokes that she's given up fighting the endless dirt and grime, but in reality, it's not giving up at all. It's letting go of Hollywood's pressure of appearances of anything that doesn't feel real. It's the kind of life Laura Ingalls herself would have understood. While Gilbert now lives a simple farm life, the pioneer story she once brought to life still connects with new generations. What makes it timeless? In today's digital world, the show that time cannot forget. In a world where entertainment trends come and go faster than ever, Little House on the Prairie remains a rare constant. Since its debut in 1974, the simple drama about 19th century pioneers has never disappeared from television. Often drawing in more viewers during uncertain times, the show continues to find new fans, not just for nostalgia, but because its stories still feel fresh. Kids born long after Michael Landon's time watch the Ingalls family's struggles as if they were happening for the first time. At its core, Little House isn't just an escape. It's a reminder of basic values that help people navigate tough times. When it first aired, America was going through political scandals, financial struggles, and an energy crisis. In the middle of all that, the Ingalls family showed what resilience and perseverance looked like. For many, the show shows how past generations overcame hardships, the challenges of the 1800s, the struggles of the 1970s, and the difficulties of today all share a common thread: finding strength in family community and determination. At first, television executives weren't sure if modern audiences would connect with the show about covered wagons and oil lamps. But Little House on the Prairie has lasted because it tells stories about real-life struggles, illness, financial hardship, discrimination, and the need for strong communities. These challenges remain relevant no matter the time. Some episodes feel surprisingly ahead of their time. One, about a fast-spreading illness, mirrors recent pandemic experiences. Another shows quarantine restrictions that feel familiar today. A storyline featuring Todd Bridges as a child of former slaves tackles racial tensions in a way that still resonates. The show's longevity is partly due to its honesty. It doesn't shy away from hard topics like death, disability, or displacement. Instead, it presents them through the daily lives of a family, making them easier for young viewers to understand, while giving parents a way to start meaningful conversations. Advances in technology, which should have made the show feel outdated, have highlighted its relevance. Seeing the Ingalls family communicate with telegraphs, while today's world is flooded with instant digital messages, makes one thing clear: human connection remains the most important thing. The show also bridges generations. Grandparents who watch the original broadcasts now introduce it to their grandchildren, leading to conversations about history, shifting social norms, and the values that still hold true. At its core, Little House on the Prairie is about compassion, community, and resilience, values that never fade. The father she found on set. On a California soundstage under the warm glow of studio lights, a bond was formed that went far beyond television. Michael Landon, with his strong presence, high standards, and surprising kindness, became the guiding force in Melissa Gilbert's young life. He believed in the goodness of people, and that everyone had the potential for redemption. This belief shaped not just his portrayal of Charles Ingalls, but also the entire environment on set. As the show's writer, director, and executive producer, his vision influenced every detail of Little House on the Prairie, creating a world that felt as genuine behind the scenes as it did on screen. For Gilbert, who never knew her biological father and lost her adoptive father at 11, Landon became more than just a mentor. He filled a space in her life that had been left empty. He didn't just guide her as an actress. He shaped her as a person during the years when a steady adult influence matters most. He was firm, but always fair. When she once forgot her lines, a rare slip for the usually prepared young actress, Landon cleared the set, creating a moment just for the two of them. Instead of simply scolding her, he turned it into a lesson, working with her until she regained confidence. From that day forward, she never arrived on set unprepared. Their bond grew beyond work. After losing her father, Gilbert found a sense of stability in Landon's home, joining his family for Sunday dinners, holidays, and casual visits. But everything changed when news broke that Landon, a married man with children, was having an affair with a young makeup artist on set. The fallout shook not just the cast and crew, but also Gilbert, who had already endured deep losses. To her, it felt like losing a father all over again. As time passed, they drifted apart. After the show ended in 1983, they had little contact. But in 1991, when Gilbert learned that Landon had pancreatic cancer, any lingering distance disappeared instantly. After seeing him speak openly about his illness on national television, actor Michael Landon is dead after a battle with inoperable liver and pancreatic cancer. The 54-year-old star of TV's Little House on the Prairie and Bonanza. She went to visit him at his Malibu home. Though bedridden, he was still full of warmth, and they spent an afternoon reconnecting. Just a week later, at only 54 years old, he was gone. His impact on her life remained undeniable. 4 years later, when Gilbert and her second husband, Bruce Boxleitner, welcomed a son, there was no question about his name, Michael. It was more than a tribute. It was a way to honor the man who had shaped her understanding of family storytelling and integrity. In today's divided world, his voice would have been a powerful one. He believed in second chances, personal responsibility, and the goodness in people, values that feel even more important now. Through reruns, cherished memories, and the name she gave her son, Michael Landon's presence in Melissa Gilbert's life never truly faded. Their story may have started with action, but it never really ended with cut. Landon shaped Gilbert's views on family and values, but a long-buried family secret far more painful than anything on screen would take decades to surface. What was it, and how did it change her life and art? The truth behind the smile. The foundations of identity shape everything, and for Melissa Gilbert, hers had cracks hidden beneath the surface. For most of her life, she believed her adoptive father, Paul Gilbert, had died of a stroke when she was 11. It wasn't until she was 45 that she learned the truth. He had taken his own life. This revelation forced her to rethink everything she had believed about lost trust and her own past. At the time, shielding children from painful realities was seen as necessary, especially when it came to something as stigmatized as suicide. But the secrecy left its own quiet wounds, ones she didn't even know existed. Melissa Gilbert learned the hard way that secrets can be just as damaging as the truths they try to hide. Her family's decision to conceal her father's suicide may have been well-intended, but it shaped how she saw herself and her relationships for years. As she became a parent and grandparent, she made a choice. Honesty would be her way forward. She knew firsthand how secrecy could leave lasting scars, and she was determined not to repeat that cycle with her own children. Her adult life has been anything but the picture-perfect world of her childhood TV role. She built a diverse career beyond the Prairie voicing Batgirl and Batman, the animated series tackling complex social issues in TV films and taking on leadership roles in the industry. From 2001 to 2005, she served as president of the Screen Actors Guild, proving she was more than just an actress. She was a sharp negotiator navigating the business of Hollywood labor rights and an ever-changing media landscape. In 2016, she briefly stepped into the political world, launching a congressional campaign. Though she later withdrew, it showed her willingness to use her platform for public service, proving that her influence extended beyond entertainment. Writing became another way for her to take control of her story. Through memoirs, a children's book, and even a cookbook, she shared her experiences on her own terms, choosing what parts of her life deserved to be told. Perhaps the most full-circle moment came in 2009 when she played Caroline "Ma" Ingalls in the Little House on the Prairie musical. The girl who once looked up to that maternal figure had now become her, bringing decades of real-life experience to the role. Across acting, leadership, writing, and even politics, one thing has remained constant: her commitment to authenticity. Learning the truth about her father's death wasn't just a personal turning point. It reshaped how she approached life, family, and storytelling. Her journey shows that real strength doesn't come from maintaining a perfect image, but from facing difficult truths head-on. The once sunny Prairie girl grew into a woman determined to live and share her truth, ensuring that neither her children nor her audience would be shielded by well-intended deception. Decades after first stepping into the spotlight, she continues to prove that honesty is the foundation of real healing. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out another interesting video by clicking on the video shown on your screen. See you on the other side.